Hey, Tatooine Sons family. It's been even longer than expected between episodes, but for very good reason. In the middle of January, my mother passed away unexpectedly. And it's been hard to even think about Star Wars and Marvel and DC since then. But Mom would definitely have wanted us to continue having the fun conversations she was used to listening to each week, even though most of the time she didn't have the first clue what we were talking about. So this episode is dedicated to her. This is Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the Porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that Porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody was lit.
Yeah, it was completely unexpected and an amazing gesture by Lucasfilm.
Yes.
To do that.
Absolutely.
Our contact in Lucasfilm Publicity that we have a relationship with heard about through a third party. Heard about my mom's passing and sent flowers. And I think it was on their own.
Right.
Not even from Lucasfilm, but on their own. And they didn't even know specifically who had passed. They just heard that we had had a passing in our family and a loss, and they wanted to send it. So thank you for doing that. If you're listening to this, it really did mean a lot. I was sitting at a work meeting with a bunch of people, and I got a text from Christy, my wife, and she showed the pictures, and I just was blown away. I was I was literally showing everybody at the table about this. So thank you so much. That's what this community really is all about. It's about these relationships and these connections, and it's been awesome over the years to have those connections and relationships. But that's enough about that. Welcome to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast, the only fan podcast to name a canon Star Wars creature and to be endorsed by the writer and director of Poker Face.
Yeah.
Which we haven't seen yet.
We still gotta watch it.
But we'll check it out. Yeah. Ryan Johnson. And you got to interview the re-recording mixer of Poker Face.
I did, yes.
Larry Benjamin.
That was a ton of fun.
Really quick, just what was that experience like for you?
It was a ton of fun. He was such a great guest. He was just a fun interview, and there was really no awkwardness. It was just a fun conversation, which is what you want.
He's a huge Star Wars fan.
Right.
So he did Better Call Saul and Poker Face and Ozark and Bones and a bunch of CSI
and all that
and
stuff.
El Camino,
So,
the movie. Yeah, a ton of stuff.
Yeah, a lot
I like that.
That's
and
awesome.
we got another one getting scheduled
sometime soon.
We can't tell you who that is yet because it hasn't been scheduled and we haven't recorded it yet, but we'll tell you later, very soon. So we believe that pop culture is the mythology of our generation, that there is a story, it is written on our souls, and that these myths speak to that story, and that is why we talk about Star Wars and Marvel and DC and all of the epic franchises that you love so much. I am David. I am the dad.
Hi, Dad.
Hello, gentlemen. And I am honored to be joined every week by my two amazing sons. Samuel the Hutt, what do we got going this week? Anything happening?
Yeah, I mean, there's just a small entry into the MCU this week.
Like She-Hulk?
Yeah, no,
literally,
She-Hulk's
literally
big.
small.
Yeah, so no, definitely a small. Oh,
You got that.
I'm surprised
You
it
got
took you that long.
I'm out of practice. BB Nate.
Yeah, well, the DCU is dead.
Wow,
Bury it.
Yeah, that's what everybody has said for years.
Yeah, but y'all didn't get the joke?
No, I didn't.
No, that's a line from Superman and Batman v Superman. So one of the ones that was used in like every single one of the trailers.
DCU is dead.
No.
The past.
The bat is dead.
The bat
is dead.
Yeah.
So I just changed it to DCU.
I'm trying to.
It sounded familiar.
I'm trying to forget Batman versus Superman.
It was a good movie.
The Ultimate Edition is.
Yeah. So, Dad, what are you talking about?
Well, we have 8 episodes of Star Wars to talk about in about 15 minutes. So this should get really interesting.
Not much happening anyways, so we're good. We'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. But I know I mentioned it at the top of the hour, but it has been a weird, hard, unexpected month and a week since we last recorded. And I know if you're listening to this and you're a normal listener and you heard last month's episode, we had plans for doing something on the very beginning of the month of February and doing it on live streaming on video and doing a bunch of stuff with a virtual studio audience. But the reality was I just couldn't do it last week with it, and in fact I really didn't want to do any of this with it. And then last week I had already made a commitment to be a guest on a podcast talking about the Bad Batch episodes 7 and 8 with Aaron Harris and his Bad Batch reaction show. I'll put a link in the comments to the episode with it. And so I'd already made that commitment, and he actually reached out a couple of days before the recording, and he knew that we'd been going through this because we're connected directly on Facebook, and he was like, listen, you don't need to worry about it. I'm like, no, I committed. I'm gonna do it. And so it forced me to dive into some Star Wars, to watch the Bad Batch. We were 3 episodes behind. Yeah. So we got to watch the episode with Gunji, and then we got to watch the last week's episodes. And so I had to watch those, which was exciting because it got me back into watching Star Wars. And then I listened to some of the Force Center stuff, and I watched some Star Wars Explained, and specifically listened to Dan Z's Coffee with Kenobi episode. So I don't know if you guys know this, but his son, I don't know how old Mason is. I'm thinking he's maybe 9 or 10 years old. His son has started joining him on Coffee with Kenobi.
That's
on
awesome.
their Bad Batch reaction episodes.
That's so cool.
So I listened to a whole episode. He was on there, and then you guys remember Mary Purdue and her son Chaz that we met at Celebration in Orlando, which she's been a supporter and listener to the show for years now. And Mary, thank you guys so much for being a listener. But they were guests on that Bad Batch episode, and I listened to them, and specifically hearing Dan have the conversations with Mason that I remember having to have with you guys, like trying to pull things out and help you guys craft words. It was like I was listening to, honestly, it was kind of like listening to Nathan when we first started with it. And I just kind of was like, that was really therapeutic. And so, listening to that and stuff. And so I actually sent Dan a message and thanked him for that and kind of doing it. So then we recorded Thursday night and we're here. We're doing this. We're going to keep going. So thank you for listening to the show. And if you don't already follow the show, follow it on whatever podcast app you're listening to it on. Share the show. Share it with others as well. Get the word out about the podcast and let other people know about Tatooine Sons. We feel like we have a good show, and we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. So
yes, sir.
But enough talking about what we're going to talk about. Let's talk about what we're talking about.
There you go.
Yes, man, even after 5 weeks.
Still works.
I got it. I got it right. BB Nate, go.
Yes. Well, James Gunn finally released his DCU roadmap. Well,
nice.
Kind of. He announced some of the projects, and some of them are unique, to say the least. So let's just get into it.
Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Yeah, I can fly.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
The people in this room, which one is A, wearing a spangly outfit, and B, not of use?
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
Batman has no limits.
Of the bat suits from Flash trailer, there is a blue and gray classic suit.
No way! I didn't notice that. I've only watched the trailer and the TV spot once. I haven't watched it again.
I
was
multiple times.
Like confused by the weird one that had like the
that's the underwater. That's an underwater breathing tubes, and then he has a desert one too.
I noticed that. It looks like so Nightmare cool. Batman. It's bit.
Awesome.
Very cool.
It's gonna be very exciting.
Awesome.
It's gonna be great. Well, we actually do have a small roadmap of new DCU content. This is about half of the first first chapter, which is called Gods and Monsters. A very interesting title. It's going to be
I think that the comic book shop that we used to go to in Orlando is probably pretty excited right now.
They're like, we're going to be getting business, a lot of business, but a lot of comic shops have been getting a ton of business from this announcement. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I'm going to jump into the TV shows, ask some questions, and then movies. And
we really haven't had a chance to talk about this. I was on the road after my mother's memorial service and funeral. I had a work trip I had to go on, and so I was on the road when this all got announced. And honestly, we just have not had a chance to walk through it yet.
It's been busy, but let's get into the TV shows first. Now, Creature Commandos. This is going to be the first official DCU project released, and it's actually animated. It's just such a strange thing to kick off the DCU, but it's a bunch of characters no one really knows about except for like Amanda Waller and Rick Flag, so they're probably going to be getting rid of the Suicide Squad movie since he kind of died.
Like
in that
move
movie.
those out of. They're going to be
they're probably phasing that out.
Moving to the Legends category. Is that what we're doing with that?
The Elseworlds category, probably.
Elseworlds.
But that's pretty much all we know. We also know that all the voice actors in this and all future animated projects in the DCU will play their own live action counterparts as well.
That's cool.
So they're going to try to make everything kind of consistent, which is a word we have not heard for DC in a very, very long time.
Now, you mentioned, though, that this is an unusual way to start out the DCU, but you remember that the relaunch of Star Wars in Disney canon began with an animated series.
It did.
Yeah, that's true.
With Star Wars Rebels, and that was pretty good.
It was great. And this looks like it's going to be great as well. James Gunn's helping writing a lot of it.
So explain the Creature Commandos, because I have no idea.
So they're basically like the Suicide Squad. Amanda Waller creates this group of like monsters and creatures, like the Bride of Frankenstein is one of them. I think the Weasel character from the Suicide Squad is a part of it as well. And Dr. Phosphorus.
Which makes sense that
Blight from Batman Beyond, if you remember that, the nuclear
Didn't
guy.
James Gunn's brother play the Weasel?
He did. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Swamp Thing?
I'm not sure if Swamp Thing will actually be in this one, but he might be. James Gunn tweeted out a little bit ago a picture of Swamp Thing and Bride of Frankenstein kissing from a comic a while back, and was talking about it. So
bizarre.
We'll probably have something, but it's just basically like the Suicide Squad, but with weird creatures doing really weird monster things. It's going to be like the classic Universal monster movies, probably just a lot of fun. It's the way you start out this universe. And the next title, this is actually what the next project is going to be in DCU, is Waller. The title is pretty self-explanatory. We will get a show about Amanda Waller. What it's going to cover, we don't know yet. We don't know a lot about this show at all. We know that Viola Davis is probably going to be in her role again. That's cool. Amanda Waller, because she just nailed that role. I can't imagine anybody else in it. And Peacemaker is still part of this universe. So
they're not.
And Amanda Waller is in that too, isn't she?
She is. So we'll probably be still having some things, and this will be leading right into Peacemaker season 2, I think. So we're going to be having a lot of that. Now, this next one, this is probably my most anticipated show, Lanterns. Now, this show will be True Detective in space, according to James Gunn, the man himself. And it will follow Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart working together. Hopefully. I'll get into that a little bit later, too, because there's some questions I have about this. But the next show is Paradise Lost. When I heard him announce this, I was driving while I had the video to my side. I was just listening to it.
Which is not a good thing to tell your dad on the show, but it's a smart thing to tell him while you're recording.
Yes,
because he can't yell at you.
I wasn't watching it. I just had it on because it just dropped and I had to go deliver something for mom. So I wanted to make sure I was able to listen to it and get all the stuff. But this Paradise Lost is just basically Game of Thrones and Themyscira. It will be the origin of the island and its people, and he says it's going to be pretty greedy, but it's going to be interesting.
Themyscira is the planet where
that's the island from
the Amazonians.
The Amazonians.
Yeah, so it's going to be that, and it's going to deal with the old gods, which makes sense as gods and monsters, and probably going to lead into the new gods a little bit to introduce Darkseid and all that stuff. So this is going to be interesting.
Hopefully, it won't be too Game of Thrones.
Yeah. James Gunn talked about that. He's like, we're not going to make a project R-rated if it doesn't need to be. He's like, we're going to make sure that everything fits into what it's supposed to be. And he's like, Superman Legacy, that movie. He's like, I'm making that PG-13, no matter what. He's like, because that's what it deserves to be. So I respect him trying to make sure that everything has its place. Now this next show, Booster Gold, last but certainly not least, this show is going to follow the loser that is Booster Gold, going through his career as as Booster Gold, who should just be a fun ride. And
so I don't understand Booster Gold.
So Booster Gold is a guy who's from the future and where time travel exists and everything, and he is a complete and utter failure in that timeline. So he brings a bunch of technology from the future, time travels back to our timeline, and becomes a superhero using that technology. And he like sells his services as a superhero, like Uber kind of. And it's a lot of fun. He's a fun character. It's going to be really interesting.
So is this the one that everybody thinks Chris Pratt's going to end up playing?
That's what a lot of people are saying. Since James Gunn said he wants to bring in a lot of the Guardians into this universe, Chris Pratt's kind of the thought right now, and it would work. It would work great.
It's very similar, like personality.
It is to me, Star-Lord. It is really very similar, and he has the look and everything. You know, the blonde hair, kind of guy. It would work really. So
that would be so weird though to see Chris Pratt playing a different superhero in the DC universe. But I mean, it happens.
I would like it, for sure. Mm-hmm. So, which one of these shows is y'all's most anticipated out of all of them? Right, at least from what we know right now. And I'm not including, the Elseworld shows like Superman and Lois, The Flash, The Penguin Show, or anything like that. This is just DCU stuff that we're including.
I'm gonna let you go first, Sam.
Yeah, I think for me it's Lanterns.
Really?
100%. We haven't really gotten much good stuff with the Lanterns, and there's such an interesting character and world, like it deserves to be explored. And the fact that it's a detective story, I like that, because then it's not going to feel like your typical superhero movie. It works now that you understand, when you think about the core and how the Lantern Corps works.
They're space cops.
Yeah, they're basically space cops, but with really cool powers. So I love that idea. I'm glad that we're getting Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart,
right? Not
just one or the other, because they're both really interesting characters with their own nuances. So yeah,
and
I like that.
The big thing about this show, and this is what James Gunn said, he's like, they're going to be trying to figure out a mystery that's going on in the galaxy, and it's going to lead into the bigger aspect of the DCU. This first chapter, the big bad, is going to be revealed in this show.
I like that.
They're making the shows really important for the universe.
They have one story that they're trying to tell.
Everything is important for the story. The comics,
kind of like what they're doing with Marvel right now.
A little bit, but Marvel, you don't have to watch some of the shows to understand what's going on right now. You don't need to watch Moon Knight to understand what's going to happen in Ant-Man,
right?
And you might not even need to watch it for a long time to understand what's going to happen.
That's true.
But everything about this is really important to the actual, overarching story of itself. So.
That's cool.
Which one for you, Dad?
I'm really curious about this Creature Commandos.
Okay.
I do like the idea that they're launching the new DCU with animation. I think that the idea of the voice actors also playing their live action counterparts. You guys remember back when we were covering Star Wars Resistance and we started saying, wait, Christopher Sean looks just like Kazuto Xiono, which we talked to him about when he was on the show. But Stephen Stanton looked like Griff Halloran. All of the actors, the voice actors, resembled their live action, and we thought, wouldn't that be cool if they showed up in live action in Star Wars Rise of Skywalker? And we didn't get that. So the idea that this can continue on with that, it sounds to me like it's going to be really fun. I love the idea of the lanterns with that. I all of these shows sound fascinating to me, so I'm excited about all of them. But I would say Creature Commandos, and yours is Lanterns. You said
100%. I'm excited to see, hopefully, a well done Green Lantern show or movie or something pretty soon here, but
not the Ryan Reynolds version.
Not the Ryan Reynolds version. No. But Sam, do you think that from the concept art of lanterns, I sent you this a few weeks ago, we might actually be seeing a Yellow Lantern version of Jon Stewart? Because in the concept art we got from official DC, officially James Gunn, Hal Jordan has the green ring and a green kind of aura around him, but Jon Stewart has a yellow ring and a yellow aura.
What does that mean?
That's fear. That's the main rival of the Green Lantern Corps. It's the fear, which would make sense for Jon Stewart's character. In the comics, Jon Stewart comes back from war and has severe PTSD, which is just fear. And so most likely the Yellow Lantern ring would reach out to him more than a Green Lantern ring would at this point in the story. Maybe the concept is, Hal Jordan has to work with Jon Stewart to figure out this kind of over, and then maybe at that point, you know, Jon Stewart gets a Green Lantern ring.
Yeah, I love that idea. It's a different take than what we've seen in traditional comics and stuff, where Jon Stewart is always a Green Lantern. I do hope he eventually becomes a Green Lantern, but introducing him in this way, I like a lot more. It makes him a more interesting, compelling character. And like the point you made about PTSD, I didn't know that. And I, again, think that that's a really interesting concept. We've talked about this previously about how you can use these types of mediums to discuss difficult concepts like mental illness in Moon Knight to an extent, depression in WandaVision, things like that, grief. In this, you could do fear and PTSD. That's a absolutely real thing, and it's tough to talk about. But this show could be a way to communicate that concept to a larger audience.
And they don't call this Green Lantern.
No, it's just Lantern.
They call it Lanterns,
which is great.
So you think we could see the other cores?
I think there's. I don't see why we wouldn't. I mean, it would be nice to see, you know, the blue core. It would be nice to start seeing, you know, the relationship between the pink lanterns and Hal Jordan. I mean, he has a relationship with one of them, and it's like a big deal in the comics. So it would be nice to see. No
idea what we're talking.
The pink lanterns are the love emotion, and blue's hope.
So each lantern the color is based on some type of an emotion.
Yes, except like blue is hope.
I have no idea.
White is life, and black is death.
Ooh.
The black,
but we won't be getting the Black Lantern rings for a while. I don't think we get that for a while. That would be a Blackest Night. It's not something they'll do quite yet. So
cool,
now, Dad, what do you think of the concept of Paradise Lost? This seems to be the most distant from the comics that we've seen in a while. We don't see a lot of origins of Themyscira in the comics, and they're making sure that they tell this story early on.
Well, it's going to tie into this gods and monsters idea, right? And so the Amazonians are gods. You know, you can't watch Wonder Woman 84 without having interactions with ancient gods from mythology, right? And so so the idea is there. So seeing an origin of this, which you say they don't really explore that much in the comics.
They do a little bit, but it's very rare to get like a full series or anything like that on the origin of Themyscira.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting thing. Again, as long as they keep it PG-13, you know, keep it kind of Rings of Power level type stuff.
How he described it, he's like it's going to be like Game of Thrones because of the political intrigue and
which I'm all about,
the power vacuums and all that stuff. And he's like, that's how it's going to be like it. Which I don't think I don't see how they could go super Game of Thrones-esque in the way that they can do it, but
I think it would be damaging to the brand. It would be damaging
start with that. I mean, Peacemaker did that, and Peacemaker will still.
Well,
do
we
that,
never watched Peacemaker,
but we never did. And if we need to, we can watch like recaps of what happens. But I hope I don't have to do that about this because it seems
this sounds fascinating. Yep.
Now for the movies portion of this. Now there's a lot of different choices in this this part of the DCU, but the first one is Superman Legacy. This is going to be the kickoff point for DCU is how he described it. You know, we'll have Creature Commandos and Waller, but this is really where it starts. This is how it's going to be starting, and it will not be an origin story for Superman. He's made that very clear many times, but it will be a story of him having to deal with his Kryptonian heritage and his human legacy as a hero for Earth. And I'm 100% sure right now, like it's probably going to be dealing with the Bottle City of Condor.
Why is it going to be dealing with that?
Because the Bottle City of Condor is
Bottle City of Condor.
Yes.
Am I literally supposed to envision a city inside a bottle?
Yes, 100%. So Brainiac, before Krypton
remember this
was exploded, was destroyed, he actually sucked up a city into a bottle, which is what he does for most planets. Is he takes them to understand their knowledge and everything, and he kept him there. And then they find somehow it's different in every story, but they find their way onto Earth. And there are many points since they've been in this bottle city for decades at this point, they've started to become very cutthroat with each other, like Omni-Man's home planet on Invincible, you know, survival of the fittest, and so they've been battling each other for decades. And normally it's Superman tries to find like, oh my gosh, it's a city from Krypton, it's my home, and so he sizes them back up, and then they start to wreak havoc on the Earth and all that stuff because
they had lost their way.
Powers now as well because they're Kryptonian on Earth. And that would be the best way, I think, to put it in this movie by how he described it. His Kryptonian heritage with this city, and then his human legacy of him growing up on this planet.
And choosing
basically
who he is.
Like,
right.
Kind of like what they did towards the end of Man of Steel.
Exactly.
But through a whole movie.
Through the whole movie. So it's going to be exciting. And I think whoever they get to play Superman is going to be really dependent on how this story goes.
Yeah. Any ideas who they might cast? Have they even?
I have no idea.
Have you heard any rumors or speculations?
I have not heard any rumors yet.
Nick Cage is way too old to play Superman in this.
He was going to play Superman.
He was going to, but he's too old now. This next movie, strange. The Authority. I'm going to be honest. I don't know this group. I haven't read any comics about them. I mean,
and you're a DC Comics dude.
I've heard about them before. There's a series that came out last year called Superman versus the Authority. I was going to pick it up, but I'm like, I don't know the Authority, so I'm not gonna read it. But most people actually don't know who the Authority is, and that's why the first volume of the series sold out almost everywhere. Amazon still hasn't gotten back on stock.
Dang.
Everywhere. The day that the movie was announced, this place just sold out from every website. And this group, from what I know, is a lot like the Suicide Squad, but they actually have slightly better morals. They're superhumans that want to do anything they can to make sure that the world is protected, but they
like the Guardians.
They go across the line a couple times, but yeah, a lot like the Guardians. So,
when you say anything, literally anything.
Yes,
okay.
For sure. So it's going to be interesting to see why they decided to do this movie so soon and how big they'll be in the DCU at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting. They could be almost anti-heroes in a lot of ways with that, though, because
they really are.
I'm trying to think of some storyline where it felt like that was the case. But it's the moral dilemma with this. If you have, what do they say? Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so it's the idea of once they decide that this is the right thing for them to do in order to protect the planet, they're going to do it, and they don't have to answer to anybody. And that would be they're the authority, right? So that's kind of what it sounds like.
It's interesting that they're going with a movie for this. This seems more like a TV series.
Yeah,
but it's a movie that they're doing, so it's going to be interesting. Now this next one, it's no surprise. I'm very excited.
Yeah,
about.
I bet you are.
The Brave and the Bold. The first Batman movie in the DCU will actually be about Batman and Robin, but the Damian Wayne Robin, to be specific.
That's bizarre to me.
This movie is either going to be fantastic or it's going to kind of fall flat. When you're dealing with Grant Morrison being the inspiration for this movie, he's very convoluted on the way he does his stories. But no matter what, this is just definitely one of my most anticipated movies from the announcements. It's going to be.
Does The Brave and the Bold, is that a series in like comics and stuff like that?
It's been a series. It's just been kind of a way to describe Batman, and it's been many series of Batman for
There's an animated
decades.
show called that.
Yes, since about the 80s, it's been Batman: The Brave and the Bold. So it's not an uncommon thing, but I don't mind them not calling it Batman: The Brave and the Bold. It's just The Brave and the Bold, not having to attach the name, at least not right now.
And this movie won't be animated?
No, this is going to be a live action. So whoever plays Batman will be the first time that they play Batman in the DCU, most likely will be this movie, which is an interesting way to jump into it right away.
I kind of like how, for the most part, with our staple characters like Batman and Superman, they're not doing the origin story thing. They're so overdone at this point. Not overdone, but everybody knows the origin of Superman and Batman. It's better to kind of drop in on the middle of a story, huh?
Except for Warner Brothers.
Yeah, good point. But it's better to drop it in on the middle of a story, and then for people who don't know what's going on, which why would you be watching if you don't know who Batman is? They can pick up the pieces as they go. Kind of like what they did with the Batman.
Well, it's kind of also like what they did with in No Way Home.
Yeah.
Or with the MCU Spider-Man.
Yep.
Right. They didn't give you your origin story. You may get it at some point, but they created almost a new origin story in those three movies with it. So
and in Civil War as well.
And Civil War, yeah. Absolutely.
Now, the next movie is kind of a weird one to start with. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Now, this is actually the first adaptation for the DCU. This was a comic series that came out last year and absolutely blew up the DC world. People actually really loved it. But personally, I haven't read it yet because it's Supergirl and it's not really on my radar. But I'll have to pick it up.
Yeah,
I've heard great things. But it's going to be an exciting story. It's more of her journey to try to get to Earth to protect Cal and his.
So do you think this is going to be connected with the Supergirl from Flash?
It It might be, but due to the fact that that's going to be resetting the universe and that's a different timeline, they're probably going to find a different Supergirl for this universe, I guess is how you can describe it. But I'm excited to see how they do this. And of course, the writer was very, very honored to be the one that is going to be kind of
writing
being adapted. And he's not writing the script, but it's James Gunn said this is probably one of the more anticipated movies that he's going to be working on.
That's awesome.
He loves the comics, so he reads all of the comics he works on as well, because he just wants to make sure he knows everything. But this last movie, Swamp Thing, now
I love it.
It's going to be the most interesting one we've talked about yet. It's going to be the first fully horror DCU movie. He described it's going to be dark horror, and it's going to follow the origin of Swamp Thing most likely, and we'll introduce him into the larger world of
Swamp Thing. Is such an interesting character.
He is an interesting character. It's going to be very interesting to see how they do this, because there's in a lot of the origins for Swamp Thing, it's this kind of forbidden love story between him and a human girl. It happened a lot in the comics. It happened in the TV show they did a couple years ago that was very popular. And so I'm wondering if they're going to be going that direction, or if they're just going to try to talk about him and the green of the planet and that being his motivation. But I'm wondering if this will introduce Justice League Dark and Constantine and all that stuff, because he's a big part of that group. And we were supposed to get a Justice League Dark series, and it really hasn't been fully canceled yet, but we haven't.
Well, and Constantine 2 was said to have been canceled, and then they came back and said, no, it's not canceled.
I don't think Keanu Reeves is going to be playing Constantine in this universe. I think that's going to be an Elseworld story, but the fact that they're still keeping that on people's radars is important for this.
And congratulations to Michael Uslan. I bet you his phone and him and James Gunn have been on the phone a lot over the last couple of months recently, because of all the Batman stuff and now Swamp Thing and everything else. So that's very cool.
So which one of these is y'all's most anticipated movie from these 5?
I mean, I'd have to probably say The Brave and the Bold. I'm always a sucker for a good Batman movie. The fact that we're going to be getting Damian Wayne in live action is really cool.
Right.
I like that a lot. It should be an interesting dynamic, because they're usually, from what I'm familiar with, Damian's not the best kid.
No, he's not.
Really like him
he's
at all.
Been trained by Ra's al Ghul,
right? So I'm excited to see that in adapted. I'm curious to see who they're going to cast for both Damian, but especially Bruce. So I'm excited to see that.
I'm going to say Superman Legacy.
Okay,
I want to see. Henry Cavill was such an iconic version of Superman. Christopher Reeve was an iconic version of Superman. Brandon Routh sort of got a bad script and bad production with that. But he's become sort of a fan cult favorite as an actor through CW and such with that. But I'm really excited to see what James Gunn wants to do with Superman, because you can tell of all of the stories, that's the one he seems to be the most dialed in on.
He's concerned,
and I think he'll probably be the one that ends up directing it. I don't think they're going to say that, but
now. He's writing it, but I'm not sure if they'll be able to find
he's not going to find a director that's going to do it the way he wants to do it. So but he's got a story in his head he wants to tell.
And he's very concerned because he knows how important Superman is to DC, and so it's really important. Now, Sam, do you think that starting the Robin stuff with Damian Wayne is a good idea? This is not Dick Grayson or Jason Todd or Tim Drake. We're going to the most recent Robin here.
It's definitely risky, but I think the character's well established enough in the comics world that you can bring him into the live action. I mean, it's the same thing that we were saying, hoping that they adapt into the Batman 2 Part 2 or whatever with the Court of Owls. They're pretty recent too. And we would love to see them adapted. So I don't think that, Damian, it's definitely a riskier choice, but I don't think it's going to backfire or anything if they do it well.
I don't think so. Maybe we'll see some of the other Bat fam in the movie too. Nightwing and Red Hood would be awesome to see in live action.
If you're bringing in Damian Wayne, then there seems to be the assumption that those other Robins had existed too.
Exactly. So hopefully we'll see that. But we can't really talk about the DCU without talking about the new trailer of the movie that is resetting the universe, The Flash, that came out yesterday for us. I can honestly say that the new trailer was just fantastic. I mean, it adapts Flashpoint Paradox without being a shot-for-shot remake. It takes some liberties, and I can't wait to see what they do with it. While Michael Keaton returning as Batman is awesome and exciting.
And Ben Affleck.
Of course, is exciting. But everybody's talking about Michael Keaton. The part I'm actually most excited for...
If he's not busy throwing donuts out the window.
Right. I didn't actually get to see that commercial.
You didn't see the Dunkin' Donut commercial?
I did not get to see the Dunkin' Donuts commercial. But I'm actually most excited for Zod's return.
I am.
Yeah, that was crazy.
He is one of my favorite villains from the DCEU, and I can't wait to see what he does in this movie as the big bad. Or maybe not even the big bad.
So how do you think Zod's back?
I think Zod's back because Barry travels to save his mother before the time that Zod even comes, but he gets rid of all metahumans by traveling back in time to save his mom. That one point is the one that changes everything for the entire world. So Zod's coming back and is trying to conquer the world because he knows that Kara is on this planet, but she doesn't have power.
So we don't have Superman in this timeline. We have Supergirl.
So he's able to conquer a lot of Earth at this point because there's no metahumans to help them. And that's why Batman's in here, because he's not a metahuman. And so he's able to be in this universe. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how they work this out and how they adapt it and how this resets the timeline. Because normally when he puts his mom's death back into the timeline, it resets back to normal pretty much.
But it's not going to happen in this one.
That can't happen. There has to be something else that happens because of it. So real quick, what did y'all think of the new trailer that we got yesterday?
No, I thought it was fantastic. I loved it. I mean, seeing Michael Keaton's Batman, seeing him, say the line, I'm Batman, and all that kind of stuff was awesome. But Zod being back made me sort of sit forward like, did we know that he was going to be back?
I did, but I just keep forgetting about it.
Okay.
I didn't know.
I didn't know that. And so I sat and leaned a little bit forward and paid a little bit closer attention. I loved what I saw about Supergirl in this. She looked like a fun character in it. With it feels like there's some stuff that actually is really critical with her. In this, the interaction between the different Barry Allens was really good, and then when you see all those bat suits, it's just like, all right, I'm in. Take my money,
for sure,
or my pass for AMC.
Sam, right. So.
I absolutely. It exceeded expectations. Like Dad said. I was excited for the movie. I thought it was gonna be cool, but when Zod showed up and that whole storyline happened, I'm like, oh, this is legit now. Like this is the real deal. And like Michael Keaton Batman was awesome, of course. I like how they made him cool in this. We watched the 89 a while ago. And we're like, okay,
89 was great.
It was great.
Y'all are so.
But him like turning his head all weird was kind of off-putting. And they used his theme in the trailer, which I really liked. That was cool. But
yeah, so real quick to wrap things up, fun question. How many times are we going to see this in theaters, you think?
As many times as we can.
Let's hope
probably.
So. But I don't know. This is.
I said this, in our wrap up 2022 project, looking to 2023 episode, that this was my most anticipated movie.
It's going to be good, but I think I have a feeling it's going to be a very long movie. Just judging from everything they have to put in here.
And the things that James Gunn has said about this movie makes it even more intriguing for me.
He says it's one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. And he's saying that while Guardians 3 is about to come out, and he directed that.
Disney and Marvel are kind of like, hey, James, can you tone it down just a little bit here, buddy?
Right. He even shared the trailer again and was like, gosh, he's like, I love this movie so much. I can't wait for you guys to see it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, he's all in with DC, and it's good to see somebody have passion again for DC. But the DCU is looking to be very interesting. I know I say interesting a lot, but there's no other word for it. Some vague characters and strange choices, but it's actually nice to see DC having some direction, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
That's good. Good segment, BB.
Good segment.
We're going to have a long show today.
There was a lot to talk about.
There was a lot to talk about there. We got Ant-Man stuff to talk about, and then 8 episodes of Bad Batch coming up.
But we had so much DCU stuff.
Yeah, we do. That was fun. We needed to have that conversation. Your follow-up question to your segment. How do you feel about the DC you going forward?
I'm excited. I think it'll be good. I think that James Gunn cares about it, which is good to see. I'm not saying that like Zack Snyder didn't. He did, but there's just complications there because the heads of the studio didn't. But he's the head of the studio now, and he genuinely cares to make sure that it's good. And
it's good.
The director of The Flash will be returning to direct more stuff. We don't know what.
Andy Machete.
He will be coming back for something else. So.
Very cool. All right. Well, this week we get the honor of discussing one of the greatest droids in the Star Wars universe. The question is whether he's canon or not.
This is not going to go the way you think.
All right. Since it's been so long, we'll explain what this segment is. Right. Basically, I go and I click on the random article button on Wikipedia. And I had to look a little bit today.
Okay.
It kept giving me this stuff that I was like, no, that they're going to figure that out too easily. And then I found this one. I'm like, all right, we're getting it. So anyway, these knuckleheads decide whether it's canon or legends and why. All right. So
we don't decide. We try to guess.
They guess on it. So
we're not the story group.
Here we go. It is the droid BX778, also known as BX or Beaks.
Beaks. Okay.
All right. He was a culinary septic droid owned by Han Solo and his wife Leia Organa when they lived on Chandrila 2 years after the end of the Galactic Civil War. He was programmed to be an expert gourmet chef, able to cook more than 15,000 different styles of cuisine, which he was quite enthusiastic about. He also had an affinity and an obsession for making caf, which is coffee in the Star Wars universe, which makes him the greatest Star Wars droid ever, and was often brewing and or offering it to his masters and their guests, even after being told not to or when no one asked him to.
So this is just 3PO if he was a foodie.
I guess. He would describe in detail every step of his calf making process and the ingredients he used. I'll start with you, BB Nate. Canon or legends?
You know, I'm going to say canon because I genuinely want this to be canon. I don't know where it could be because there's not many Han Solo books after the Civil War. I mean, like the only one I can think of is like his last shot was one that was with Lando, right? That one. Okay. That you read that one. Yeah. I'm trying to think of any other books that had Han Solo after the Civil War. So it's probably Legends, but I really hope it's canon.
Okay. So you would say if you had to, like, a gun to your head, I know that that's a bad phrase, but anyway, you'd pick Legends, but you're hoping canon.
Yes.
All right.
So yeah.
All right. Samuel the Hutt.
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, I feel like it could be canon, but based off of my very limited knowledge of the timeline, of Leia and Han's,
post-Civil War relationship.
Yeah, but between that and The Force Awakens, I feel like hearing that they were separated for most of it. So, the fact that it was owned by Han Solo and Leia kind of gives me pause. Otherwise, I would probably say it's canon, but I think I'm going to go with Legends just based off of that little.
So kind of the same thing as Nate, though.
Yeah.
Would like it to be canon, but
there's just one thing holding me back. Yeah.
It's from Last Shot. It's a canon novel written by Daniel Jose Older that serves as a tie-in to the 2018 anthology film Solo: A Star Wars Story. The novel was first published by Del Rey on April 17th, 2018 in hardcover and was released in paperback on October 30th, 2018.
You nailed it.
He is a legit
That's
droid,
awesome.
the greatest droid
That's great.
in Star Wars history.
That's awesome.
BB Nate. Or BB-8, excuse me. You're BB-8. BB-8 never bought anybody coffee.
No.
I could see R2 doing that, though. Right, anyway.
Yeah, but he would, find a way to spit in it or something first.
Yeah, and C-3PO would somehow find some reason why it wasn't allowed. So, anyway. All right. All right, let's go, Shmuley. We got, a lot to talk about. Let's go.
Yeah, with Phase 5 of the MCU kicking off this week with Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania, we want to go over everything we know leading up to it. So we'll discuss what's happened since we last saw the characters, talk and speculate about what we might see, and finally give some predictions that probably won't come true.
Be on your guard. There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world.
All right, then, keep your secrets.
You're coming to
are many magic rings in this world, Bilbo Baggins, and none of them should be used lightly.
What are you talking about?
You didn't hear about this?
You didn't hear about that? So Scott Lang's in-universe autobiography is actually being produced in our world and being sold as Scott Lang's autobiography. Look out for the...
I want the audio version.
There's no audio version yet, but...
They need Paul Rudd to read this as Scott Lang.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm going to get it. It's the autobiography of Scott Lang. That's just such a fun idea. It's coming out October or something.
Did you hear what the title is?
No, I don't know about. I didn't hear about this.
Look out for the little guy.
I sent y'all the link to it.
I wasn't paying attention.
I thought it was Paul Rudd's autobiography for some reason. The fact
Now
that it's
Scott
Lang.
Lang.
It says written by like Scott Lang is the top header, and it's all of that. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
All right, well, let's go through and talk about kind of everything that we know's happened since or leading up to this movie, right? We last saw Scott Lang and the gang in Endgame, where Hank Pym's technology played a pivotal role in the Avengers' success.
And Luis's van. Luis's van.
I don't think
Real MVP.
Did it do that?
Yeah, it did.
Oh, it did.
I guess we need to rewatch the movie.
I guess we do. Now, this movie takes place 2 years after those events, so it places it in 2025 in the MCU timeline. I don't know how important that detail. I looked it up. Screen Rant says so.
Well, if it's a Screen Rant, it's
So,
true. Like
thank you,
the Screen Rant says that we're the number 2 Star Wars podcast.
Right, so they're obviously very
so obviously
reputable.
they're smart.
And they steal from us all the time, so we're good.
I'm
kidding. Okay.
No, they don't. Okay. All right. Anyway.
Now, it's also important to note that since Endgame, Scott's daughter Cass has changed actresses, or maybe she's a variant.
No, she changed actresses because they can just set it up for the Young Avengers stuff in the future.
Yeah. But what do you think Scott and them have been up to since Endgame, in those 2 years, besides being, named Employee of the Century by Baskin Robbins?
It's great. Well, we know that Cass is kind of followed in her father's footsteps. We saw her in prison, most likely, as a thief, which is fun, a full circle kind of situation there. But obviously, Ant-Man's been loving the attention. Scott Lang has been loving the attention of being an Avenger, going to red carpets with Hope and, finding all that stuff. And
so I hear he's got a podcast in the opening of this.
He does?
Really?
That's great.
He's got his own podcast.
Oh, I can
That's
totally
amazing.
see it too.
So can we not have him interviewing Avengers?
That would be great. Have
on his podcast.
I would love that. Yeah, he's talking with Sam Wilson about that time they were fighting at the Avengers compound.
And then Spider-Man, but in his costume.
Right. Because nobody knows about Peter Parker.
Knows who he is.
He's just the Spider-Man kid. Spider-Man. He has no idea who the Spider-Man kid is.
And Hawkeye, you can see really that. Could
I could see Hawkeye for sure being on that because he's kind of retired now, so it would be fun to tell the stories. But it'll be great. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see what he's been up to.
I think that I remember when we saw the. I don't remember if it was the most recent trailer for Ant-Man or not, or for Quantumania or not, but. When you see that Cassie has been in prison or in jail of some sort, right? You realize, and there's some lines in the trailer that talk about he's been gone, right? And Paul or Scott Lang has been gone. Yeah. He's been separated from his daughter
because he was in the quantum realm,
right? And all this other stuff. She's growing up during this time, and she's living in the world of the blip.
With no father,
and we don't know where any of the others were.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, where
her mother,
Hope, or
her mother, her real mother,
or the dude that she was seeing, the cop.
Yeah. That the mom was seeing. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, what that life was like for Cassie.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And
did the ant get blipped? That's the real question here. The giant ant.
The ant didn't count.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
He's not a human.
But all of life was snapped away. Really? So
okay, but I think that's probably one of the most important stories that we're going to see is to find out what that 5 years was like for Cassie.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. Now, on the flip side of things, Loki, the series, introduced Jonathan Majors into the MCU as He Who Remains, as well as the first mentions of Kang as a character. Loki also supposedly fractured the timeline, though we haven't seen its effects yet, really, in the MCU. Mm-hmm. So I think the question that everyone's been asking for a while now is is Kang he who remains? So I'll ask you guys the same. Is Kang he who remains?
No, I don't think he is.
Okay, I don't.
No,
think
but
so
I do
either,
think that Kang, or he who remains mentions having variants, and there's others of him, and so I think Kang is one of those others. I think he who remains is trying, while he's way too powerful. His choices ended lives,
right?
You know, about this. He's trying to maintain order, right?
Yeah,
through the pruning.
I mean, the timeline was uniform,
exactly. You know, and even those that are pruned are. I mean, they're sent to that weird planet at the end. I can't remember.
Yeah,
and then it's just a weird story. So he's not a good guy,
right?
With it. But
he's not Kang.
Kang is worse.
Kang is Kang.
Yeah.
You know,
and I'm wondering, these are not predictions sure to go wrong. I genuinely think this is what happened. I think that He Who Remains found Kang as a variant because he was wreaking so much havoc on the timeline and stuff. That He Who Remains put Kang in the quantum realm so that he couldn't do any more damage to any
the
universes.
planet where you got pruned just wasn't strong enough for him or something.
So he put him in the quantum realm because he can't affect anything there. It's a different universe, basically. It's a different realm in our world. So but he's built an empire there to be able to eventually get to this point.
Yeah,
it's gonna be. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. That's why He Who Remains, when he died by Sylvie, he's like, well, see you soon. That's the last thing he said. So,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
So we need to watch Loki again.
I am watching Loki.
We need to watch Loki again. We need to watch Ant-Man again.
Which makes sense. I mean, that's
by Thursday.
We could just watch the Marvel
top.
Legends episodes.
There we go.
That would be better.
Oh, yeah. So let's talk about what we know is happening in this movie based on trailers and stuff. We know that Cass creates a way to communicate with the quantum realm in order to help others who are stuck there, like what happened to her dad. This, of course, backfires, sends them all to the quantum realm where the majority of the film takes place. We also know that at some point, Kang comes to Scott with a request for him to help and seems to use Cass is a bit of a lure for Scott's cooperation. Scott doesn't seem to play along as we see shots of the two having a really brutal battle. Mm-hmm. Scott gets pretty messed up. We also know that the famous Marvel villain MODOK will be making his MCU appearance.
So crazy.
Played by Darren Cross, who played Yellow Jacket in the first Ant-Man, though we don't know if this is the same character. First... How do you all think they get out of the quantum realm?
I have no idea.
They all are not getting out of the quantum realm. I think Scott's dying.
That was going to be my next question. Do they all get out of the quantum realm?
The way that I don't know how they get out of it, because Kang's obviously had his own troubles trying to get out of the quantum realm. But obviously, actually, no, that doesn't help, because if Scott's gone for like a year in the time of like the real world, he only feels like 20 seconds or like a few minutes in the quantum realm.
It was 5 minutes for 5 years.
Who knows how long Scott's going to be in the quantum realm in this movie and how much time he's going to lose.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Back.
Yeah.
So it might be like 2030 by the time he gets back into the main universe, if he gets back. But all of them getting into this universe, I mean, it's probably going to be a while, because they obviously are there not for just a few minutes. They're there for a while.
Yeah.
And
interesting.
That's going to be scary. And Kang has been in the quantum realm for who knows how long.
Right.
So he's been gone for decades, maybe.
But isn't Kang from like hundreds of years in the future?
In the comics he is, and he's obviously, we know he's been jumping around from timeline to timeline, killing people, Avengers. Like even one of the clips that they released when Kang and Scott meet, Kang's like, are you the one with the hammer? It's like, I killed you before, and Scott's like, no, that's Thor, but we do have a very similar physique. Yeah. And I was like, well, that's at least they're having comedy in it. But he obviously has gone up against Avengers many times and won many times.
Yeah.
So who knows how many times he's done this and how he got put into the quantum realm. I'm sure it was He Who Remains, and there's just so much that we don't know, but there's a lot of bad stuff that can happen.
Yeah. Do y'all think that Yellow Jacket is MODOK?
maybe a different like version.
I think it's the same guy.
I don't think it's the same guy because he turned into goop at the end of Ant-Man.
He got flushed down the toilet, didn't he?
No, he didn't get flushed down the toilet. He just maybe he did. I don't know. They scraped him up like though when Scott like turned him inside out, he just fell in the pile of goop.
Anyway,
interesting.
It was gross. No, yeah, I don't think so. I think it's just the same actor.
Okay, fair enough. So we know that Kang is this saga's main villain, right? Like Thanos was.
Right.
Though we don't know how that happens. So something that kind of confuses me about why they're placing this movie so early in the saga is if Kang gets out, what's to stop him from immediately wreaking havoc until the saga ending films, right? I mean, Thanos was introduced after like Avengers, right? But we didn't have him as a problem until Endgame, and the reason was because he had to find the Infinity Stones, right? That was kind of what delayed him. What's to stop Kang if he gets out? You know, how do they handle that if they release him in this movie?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure how it would happen, judging by the way it can go. It's just there's so much unknown with the quantum realm in this universe that we don't know what happens when somebody who's been stuck in there for years gets out like this. I mean, we saw it with Hope's mom, Hank Pym's wife.
Yeah,
she was in there for years and she got out and she's messed up a little bit, but she's fine. So we don't know what can happen with Kang when he gets out, and if MODOK's gonna get out with him. We don't know if the entire army is gonna get out, and if that happens, do we just like does Quantumania lead straight into Kang Dynasty, and then the rest of the other phases and stuff is just the 5 years in between those things,
like while they're all in the quantum realm.
Is that how it's going to happen? But then why start?
That feels so anticlimactic.
Yeah, that does, because then you got you get to this point like, oh yeah, King. Oh wait, we got to wait 4 years so we can see what happens next. So it's going to be interesting.
Maybe we'll get Eternals 2 during that time.
Oh, wow.
No, I here's what I mean. We have to assume Kang wins in this battle at some point.
He's not going to die.
Yeah, I mean, there was a line in the trailers though that Scott's like, I don't have to win. King just has to lose.
We just both have to lose.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting. I've heard some people that have talked about this movie that actually got to see screeners or got to go to a premiere or something like that, and their description of it was, "This is a fantastic movie," and the trailers tell you nothing about what's happening.
Well, we just keep seeing the same stuff in the trailers.
Yeah, I could tell you that. We got nothing in these trailers. Still excited for it, but we got nothing plot-wise.
I mean, this is just a symptom of the Marvel curse. I mean, this movie snuck up on me because there was a slight lack of marketing on their part. I mean, they released one trailer a long time ago and then another trailer pretty recently, and that was it. And it's just, it has stuck up on me. Like, I cannot imagine it being this week that we're going to see a new Marvel
we used to get so excited about these things, like for weeks on end. We were talking about how excited we were, and we're like, oh yeah.
I mean, I'm excited to see this.
Quantumania is coming out. Yeah, exactly.
I'm very excited, but it's just like, oh, there's a Marvel movie. Like, because the last Marvel movie we got was Wakanda Forever, and it was fantastic, and we were super excited about that.
That was kind of an ender,
it was
phase 4,
and then we were just like, okay, well, Marvel's not on our radar anymore.
All right, let's get into this part. Predictions, sure to go wrong. Nate.
Sure to go wrong. Do you remember the big ant's name? Was it Anthony, or was that the first ant that he had?
That was the first one. He had a weird name.
I know.
I can't believe we're trying to remember ants' names. Anyway.
Well, the big ant that, he had an Ant-Man and Wasp that, wore the ankle monitor and, played the drums and all that stuff while Scott was gone. I think that he'll actually save the day.
Okay.
With Luis.
Luis.
And Luis is going to tell this whole story.
Right. And this entire movie is just Luis telling the story.
So none of them are going to actually be talking. It's just going to be him doing the voices.
Exactly. I genuinely think that this is just a story that Luis thought would be good to put in a fiction novel.
This is one of Cass's bedtime stories.
Right.
So Luis is actually the one that raised Cass. Right. And so
we have to see Luis in this movie, though. You can't have an Ant-Man movie without him. He's the MVP of the MCU. If it wasn't for him, who knows where the good guys would be at this point. Endgame wouldn't have happened.
Absolutely.
So, I mean...
Dad?
Yeah, mine's not going to be nearly as good as his.
No, I don't think any of ours will be now.
I was going to say something, like during the podcast, an interview with Spider-Man, so that Scott Lang can prove that he's not Spider-Man. Because people get confused in the trailers.
Yeah.
Right? He interviews Spider-Man and Peter Parker reveals himself.
That would be horrible.
But nobody knows who Peter Parker is. So nobody knows. So nobody cares.
Cool.
Peter.
Thanks. Thank you.
It's like I saw this meme. It was like an animated DC thing, and a bad guy got body swapped into the Flash, right? And he's like, I'm gonna finally see who the Flash is, and he goes to a mirror and takes the mask off, and he's like, I have no idea who this is. It's like, I don't have any really great predictions. Y'all are so good. So we goodness, I got nothing.
That's right.
Good.
No, it's fine.
Nathan kind of stole the show.
He did. It's a mic drop after that.
I mean, maybe we see Howard the Duck. That'd be cool. I could see Howard the Duck.
We could interview Howard the Duck.
That would be awesome
on the podcast.
All right. Well, Ant-Man and Wasp.
What if he interviews Kevin Bacon?
about his time in space? I would love that.
That would be great.
We just want a whole.
I guess the podcaster in me just wants the entire thing.
But
to be
I would want
interviews.
a whole bonus feature of just a ton of interviews.
I just want a Disney Plus series of him doing podcasts interviews.
That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania is set to release this week on the 17th.
What?
So be sure to run down to your theater this weekend to give it a watch. Promises to have a pretty major impact on the MCU, so we'll see if it lives up to that.
Very good segment, Samuel. Good job, buddy. All right. Are we going to continue? Are we movie stuff now?
We do have
movies. One of our movie highlights from January is getting a sequel. They should just call it Sequel. That's next on Movie Moments.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
All right, so a few of the films that came out in January that we like. January is usually kind of a slower month.
It is a slow movie month.
At least the films that we saw in January.
So like quick reactions to these? Or
well, we saw Puss in Boots Last Wish in January. It came out in December. But
we saw it in January, and you guys rewatched it again in February.
We did. Yeah. So it was really good. It's a lot of fun. It wasn't an animated kids movie. It was just an animated movie that was just for everybody. It was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, it well exceeded my expectations. Like blew past them. I loved that movie. It was really, really.
You did, but you were tired that day.
I was tired. I fell asleep.
Really
the next
movie,
like the
climactic scene, I guess
so. In the next movie, we didn't fall asleep in, but it was Plane. It was a movie. It was certainly a movie of January. That's really all I can say about it right now. But it was fun. It was an action movie.
I liked
really
it.
All you can say.
Yeah, it was exactly.
I think we have a video on our YouTube channel of our conversation on the way back.
We do.
Oh yeah, in the car.
So we don't have to talk about this anymore. The next movie was one that Sammy has not seen.
Sammy, haven't seen it yet.
He still needs to see it because it was actually really good. Missing. It was a good movie. I liked Searching a lot. I saw that a few times, and Missing kind of took that same concept and changed the story. And you think that the trailers reveal a lot.
They don't reveal
really
anything.
Did not reveal anything.
I got surprised.
So there was a lot of great moments in this. And
I think that it was better. The last act of this one was better than even in Searching.
Yes, I agree. It was a lot of fun. It was really good.
Yeah, but that's good. So those 3 movies we recommend you check out if you haven't yet.
Yeah,
we enjoyed them.
Most of them are still in theaters probably right now.
Yeah, they all are.
Yeah. So for February releases we're interested in, Marlowe. Now we saw the trailer for this before Plane, actually.
That's right.
It's about in the late 1930s, Bay City, a brooding, down on his luck detective is hired to find the ex-lover of a glamorous heiress. So studio's Open Road. The director is Neil Jordan. The cast is Liam Neeson, Diane Kruger, and Jessica Lange. It is rated R for language, violent content, some sexual material, and brief drug use. I'm
beef
so
drugs.
tired.
Beef drugs.
Going yes or no? Maybe.
I don't know. I mean,
I'm hearing
about it.
I'm hearing many mixed reviews on it. But it hasn't officially released yet. It only released at a couple like film festivals. So we'll see what it balances out to when it actually
Be curious to see what the fan reaction is to it.
It looked decent from the trailer.
It did look decent, and it just feels like a lean.
You just got to know what you're watching.
Right, exactly. Now, the next movie, we talked about it already. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. I don't think I need to go through the log line on this, and you already know the cast. So it's also...
And we're going.
Yeah, we're going.
So, it's PG-13.
It's PG-13 for violence, action, and language, which honestly is one of the more tame ratings we've had for Marvel
in a while.
In a bit.
Yeah. So the next movie, I think we're interested in this. Jesus Revolution. It is the true story of a national spiritual awakening in the early 1970s and its origins within a community of teenage hippies in Southern California. Actually filmed.
Bunch of hippies.
Down here, though.
Yeah.
Where it was filmed literally, like some of it,
like
some of the driving stuff is like I can look from our back porch and watch the road.
So that's actually pretty cool to see that
cool.
happen. The studio is Lionsgate. The director is John Gunn, not to be confused with James Gunn, and is in no way
related to Sean
James Gunn
maybe?
Or Sean Gunn. No, it's just John Gunn.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. The cast is Joel Courtney and Kesley Grammer.
I typed it wrong. Frasier from Cheers.
Yes. The MPA rating is...
I can't find it.
It's going to be R.
It's going to be. They're like debating between PG and PG-13. So
probably right now they haven't. I don't think they've released the tickets quite yet. They might have, but this isn't a movie that they'd release tickets for early because they need to.
No, but I definitely want to see.
But yeah, we want to go see it. It looks good. The trailer that I've seen like 15 times is just good. I've seen it every single time I go to theaters now.
They do play it a lot,
but it's still good. It looks good.
And this is just basic movie news.
Some basic movie news and stuff. Playing sequel. Ship. I'm not even kidding. That's the name.
We were joking about something.
We'll see Mike Coulter, the Luke Cage, return for more white knuckle action.
So he's probably trying to get off.
100% him getting off.
He literally, no, they said that. He's like,
so
it's like picks up with him trying to get off the island,
but it's on a boat.
It's on a ship.
I mean, why not?
I'm all for it, man.
Let's go with it. And then he has to get on a train, and it's called Train. And then it crosses over with Fast and the Furious, but they just call it Car.
There we go. And then Rocket.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. But Disney fans actually show their frustration. What's new? As two big Super Bowl trailers fail to drop.
They never said they were dropping.
They never
I don't remember hearing that.
There was some rumors that they were going to, but never believed rumors.
Little Mermaid and Marvels?
Yes. And honestly, I'm not disappointed about either of those.
I would have been interested.
I would have been interested to see Marvels.
I mean, it's just I didn't really enjoy Captain Marvel. So.
I have never gotten into any of the live action remakes of the Disney animated stuff.
The only one that I enjoyed, like genuinely thought was good, was Lion King. But it was basically a shot for shot
remake. And it wasn't live action.
That's the only one that I've watched, and I remember walking out there and saying it was good.
Although we still have yet to watch Jungle Book, and I've heard good things. I've heard
good things about Jungle Book.
So I'm just not into the live action remakes.
No. But Paul Walker's daughter. Not even sure who that is. Meadow Walker will actually make a cameo in Fast X.
Paul Walker was the original star of the Fast.
That's right.
movies.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's nice. They'll make a cameo in Fast 10, Fast X, whatever you'd like to call it.
They should have called it
Fast 10.
They should have called it Fast 10 Your Seatbelt.
They should have.
You haven't heard that?
I've never heard that.
Oh my gosh.
But they also made the trailer 4 minutes long, which is long for a trailer. So I don't know if that means the movie's going to be long or what. But John Cena's back.
Literally
Jason Momoa
all the
is in
good
it.
scenes are in the trailer, probably.
So, Jason Momoa is in it.
Are there any rocket cars, though?
I think there actually was. I'm
no,
not sure.
like space cars.
Oh, I don't know. But,
then I don't want to watch it.
But honestly, I saw a TV spot for it during the Super Bowl yesterday.
We did too.
And the action actually looks really good. It looks like a lot of fun. It looks like Fast 9.
I'm still trying to figure out how they got from street racing and stealing, was it DVD players?
Yeah.
To that.
Then they went to Tokyo Drift, and you're like, okay, we're getting back to kind of like, the stuff we thought. And then they just went like, okay, space.
Space.
Can we talk some Star Wars?
Yeah, let's talk some Star Wars. Maybe. Just an hour and 5 minutes into this.
Yeah, we'll have. Hey, you know what? I don't even care. We're having a good time talking. No. So I'm really not sure how this happened. Actually, I am sure how this happened. But 8 episodes of The Bad Batch have released since the last time we recorded one of our main episodes, one of our shows. So we've got a lot of Star Wars to talk about.
Hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
If you live long enough, you see the same eyes in different people.
For this Turbis comics, because one of them broke.
Oh shoot! No, I didn't.
They're smaller.
They're actually built for comic books. So
yeah, they look good.
They look good.
I just got them. That's bad audio, but I figured
I need to have some.
I've got an extra.
Here,
one.
I'll paint the
I've got
picture
an extra
for you.
one.
I'll hang up the Daredevil Born Again issue.
There you go. Yeah, he did. Just
you
get
can
that.
switch out comics every week. You know, ones you like.
Oh, that's kind of cool. All right, so let's talk some of these season 2. I'm gonna very, very quickly run through the episode titles and then like what the description was on Disney Plus.
Right, like as succinct as possible,
so that we can like refresh our memories about these, so you can remember what's going on, and then we'll talk a little bit about them. So those first Spoils of War and Ruins of War came out at the same time. When they premiered. The Spoils of War is the Bad Batch plans a risky heist. We know that that's Sereno. Right? It's Count Dooku's palace. And then Ruins of War, it goes all bad because that's what happens. It's the Bad Batch. And the Batch must decide who to trust as they plan their escape. All right? The third episode was The Solitary Clone. And this one I embellished on just because I wanted to make sure we included this. Crosshair and Commander Cody. It just says clones. Battle against a separatist holdout. Great episode. Faster is the fourth episode. The team enters the colorful and dangerous world of racing. It wasn't pod racing, but it was pod racing. Kind of felt like pod racing.
I felt like it'd be a good video game.
It would be
one of those
like
video
the pod
games
racing
they
video
made.
game?
You know, on like the website, like the Disney website,
or the pod racing game.
It felt like it would be that. Yeah.
The next episode was Entombed. The Bad Batch searches for an ancient treasure that stirs up a shocking
this was
surprise.
just Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
that was
absolutely.
cool though.
And then Tribe. Yeah, the Bad Batch helps bring a new friend, the Jedi Wookiee Gungi, home to Kashyyyk.
I always thought it was Gungi.
It didn't list Gungi. It didn't Gungi. Whatever. It didn't list the Jedi Wookiee Gungi or the planet. But I figured we need to do it.
I know it's Gungi, but like I'm glad they said something in the show because I always thought it was Gungi.
Really? Okay.
But it is apparently Gungi.
All right. And then these two came out together as well last week. The Clone Conspiracy, a conspiracy begins to unravel. How specific that was. And Truth and Consequences brought into a risky mission. The Batch must use stealth to survive. Do you guys remember each of those episodes?
I do. Yes.
Enough to answer this question?
Yes.
I'll start with you, BB Nate. Favorite episode from season 2 so far and why?
I'll give it to Tribe. It felt it was nice to see Gungi. I've always liked Gungi ever since I saw him in Clone Wars.
You like his lightsaber?
I like his lightsaber. I liked his little arc in that Ilum arc. That was good. I've always liked him, and it was nice to see him. And it felt the most Star Wars-esque. It was definitely a cheese pizza, if you want to go there. But it felt like a Kurosawa episode.
Okay.
I can see
I was watching it and I felt like very, slow. It didn't have a bunch of action the whole time, them going to talk with the trees. It just felt very personal and it wasn't, racing. So it didn't feel like a filler episode.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed that episode. I thought it was good.
What about you, Samuel the Hutt?
I think the Clone Conspiracy had like some intrigue to it for sure.
It had
really
a lack of Bad Batch.
Well, yeah, it had some some intrigue and political intrigue and all of that. But I don't know, something about Entombed, just the whole fact that at the end it was just this giant space mech. Like that was cool.
Which we don't have any answer for where this thing came from.
I guess it's Zepho.
100%
It's Zepho technology from Fallen Order.
That doesn't help.
It looks like it. Well, you would know if you played the game.
I really need to play that game.
But that elicited a reaction. We hadn't ever seen something like that in Star Wars. I mean, kind of the AT-ATs, but I don't know. This was way cooler than that, in my opinion. And I just like that. I thought it was neat.
That's cool. All right, let's talk a little bit about some reflections on these. I've got some specific things I want us to kind of like have a conversation about from season 2 so far. Are we good?
Can we get to the part where we talk about Echo? Because
we will. We'll get there. I promise. Okay.
Now you know how I feel.
It's true. First thing, what did you think about the Bad Batch heading to Sereno just a few months following the fall of Dooku and the Separatists, Samuel the Hutt?
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting how quickly the Republic or the Empire or whatever jumped on that. We're like, yeah, we'll just use this stuff now. And, like, they've turned that around real quick. You know, I feel like any self-respecting country might just, like, I don't know, burn that stuff. It's kind of like, I don't know.
Well, Sereno was under the thumb of a dictator, and so I think they just sort of fell apart after that. So,
yeah, I mean,
they allude to that. So,
but it was cool to see how, you know, he lived so lavishly, but the rest of the world that he was supposed to care for clearly didn't have what they needed to survive. Even though he in Jedi Lost and stuff touted as being a pretty like level-headed guy, he just kind of went about it wrong. You can see that throughout the years, the dark side took a toll on him, and he became as evil as we know him to be in episode 2 and all that.
What about you, Nate?
I thought it was cool to go back to Sereno, especially after, you know, the Clone Wars and Jedi Lost. It was cool to see that temple again. I didn't know that temple had so much stuff. I mean, every time we went to it in Clone Wars, it looked empty as could be, but then they have like 7 giant crate ships taking treasure and stuff, and I don't know where he held all that or how
inside the mountain there or whatever.
War chest or something. War chest, yeah. And I was like, okay. It was an interesting episode. I feel like it was it's a little bit of a strange way to get back into this series.
That's fair.
It was a jumping in point that we were just watching the Bad Batch go and try to get some treasure again, which is what they're doing right now. But I kind of wanted something more that we're like, okay, we've been distant from the Bad Batch for a while. Let's kind of see where they're at, see how their relationships are and all that stuff. Not just, we got to go get some treasure real quick. So it was good though. I didn't dislike it. It was nice to see Sereno.
Okay, cool. We've only had one episode with Crosshair in it.
Yeah,
so far.
Almost had 2. I thought for a second.
Yeah. In that Clone Conspiracy, you thought that was going to be in for a minute. Yeah.
Well, he wouldn't miss. So
that's true. But in that episode, we got some answers on Commander Cody.
We did.
With that, do you believe the events of that story might have opened up a crack in Crosshair's resolve?
No. If anything, it opened up Cody.
Well, Cody left.
Exactly. Cody's gone. That was more Cody's, but
you don't think that he saw things about the Empire and the way that
he
Empire
was the one that killed the person at the end.
Yeah,
without like with really no hesitation. He was like, okay, if Cody's not going to do it, I will.
Yeah,
and he was like, hey, Rampart, you need me to do anything else? You know, I'm just a call away. I'm good. I'll be there.
Well,
so
I think Cody leaving is going to make him second guess those choices. He's going to be like,
especially the way that Rampart treats him afterwards, and treats and reacts about Cody.
And he even says, like, everybody around you seems to be leaving. Is there something I should be worried about? Obviously, you know, Crosshair isn't the one making them leave, but I think that's going to make him realize maybe I'm the problem here. Like, maybe there's something wrong with me if everybody around me is leaving. Am I missing something?
We'll see.
I hope so. I want more of this guy. He's way too cool to get one episode. Like, Cody throwing the mirror puck and bouncing.
That was awesome.
Like, come on, why can't we get more of that?
That was
bad
good.
Guys are always the coolest characters in StarArs. It's not fair.
I think I already know the answer to from one of you guys on this, but we've had a couple of side quests already this season that included an homage to pod racing, a very Indiana Jones style story, and the rescue of a Jedi youngling from the Clone Wars, which
you can guess.
pretty much guess where we're going to go with this one. Which side quest was your favorite and why, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, it was the temple one, the entombed one.
It's interesting that the side quests are your favorite episodes in this.
Yeah, I mean, I would like
had the most substance. I mean, I've got to be honest.
It elicited a reaction from me. The Clone Conspiracy and stuff was cool, but I mean, the Bad Batch isn't a political story really that much. I mean, this was a lot of Senate work, and that kind of can get a little muddy. I mean, Andor made it work, but this was cool. I mean, you had the booby traps and stuff and all that, but then you had a completely out of left field. I don't think anybody ever would have guessed that it was a giant mech. Like, that was just really cool for me, and it had intrigue. Like, where did this come from? How did that exist so long ago? You know, it was cool.
That's cool. Maybe Nate, yours was...
Yeah, it was Tribe. It was just cool to see Gunji again, and I really just felt like Star Wars. It was nice to see.
It's because we had a Jedi and we had a lightsaber, and that's what you have to have for it to actually...
Cheese pizza.
Right.
Cheese pizza.
I mean, seeing Omega, whatever, bonding with Gunji, and her trying to learn how to talk to the trees. It was a very personal, emotional episode, which we have not seen in this series for a while, and it's rare to see it. And I feel like I'm very critical of this show, but I think
You like the show.
I like the show, but I always feel like it can be so much better because I know what Dave Filoni can do, and it just feels like we're going around in circles constantly, wondering like, okay, what's this show for?
I kind of said this to you guys, but it feels like, not that I've had personal experience with this, but I know like if you're in a tabletop RPG group, like, the Star Wars tabletop RPGs or Dungeons and Dragons, right? This show kind of feels like the period where you're still playing with your characters, but it's when your dungeon master is still trying to come up with a main campaign story, so he's throwing a bunch of like one-shot missions with you, so y'all can keep getting together to play. They're really cool, fun one-off missions, but you're not going anywhere yet. But it feels like Clone Conspiracy and those episodes
helped us get on the track,
where the DM sprinkling in a little bit, like, okay, I got something. Like
they know where they're going.
But I mean, we're halfway through season 2, and we're just getting to like where we're actually.
Well, I think
but also we're halfway through season 2, and we're just now getting somewhere. So there's still a lot of season to be able to build some stuff up.
Yeah, I think that we forget how Clone Wars and Rebels kind of followed this as well. It sort of did this.
Yeah,
this too.
Except
do
for
think
like
that
season 3 of Rebels,
but season 3 and season 4. So what you've got going on with this, that the reason for this series, the reason for the Bad Batch, is to really show the transition from the clones to the stormtroopers. That's what this, and that's why these Clone Conspiracy and Truth and Consequences episodes were so critical going forward with it. And so, we'll see where it goes with that. But as riveting as those last 2 episodes were, there wasn't really any major revelation in it. I mean, we didn't see. I mean, we kind of knew that they transitioned from clones to stormtroopers. We knew Rampart was a bad guy. You didn't get.
It was cool to see the process behind it.
Yes, and honestly, Clone Conspiracy was fantastic. I love that. It felt like I was just ripped back into the Clone Wars seasons 5 or 6.
Yeah,
with that, it was a lot of fun. But the big moment in that arc came at the end when Echo moved on from Clone Force 99 to rejoin Captain Rex, BB Nate. This is your opportunity, because I know you're disappointed.
Very.
With this. Will we see Echo again this season?
We better. I hope so. I trust that Dave Filoni knows what he's doing, but man, you really just had to get rid of like the one character I really did like. He was my favorite character on the Bad Batch, even though he was kind of a late addition to the Bad Batch. But he always kind of helped everybody keep a level head, and he had the most knowledge and experience out of all of them, and he was a good friend to Omega and everything. It was just, he was the center, it felt like, of the Bad Batch, and now he's like, oh well, I gotta go help Rex real quick, I'll see y'all later.
Well, I think that from a storytelling standpoint, they were challenged with the fact that Tech and Echo very similar skill set.
Yeah.
And so you ended up having challenges with those 2 characters it. So they had to figure out a way to write him forward into a different storyline.
See, they had to remove a character so that there was more room in the animating budget to bring in Crosshair back into the team.
They got to bring him back into the team.
Because that'd be a lot of work for.
So do we see Echo again this season, Sam?
I do think we see Echo again. I probably won't be for a while, maybe towards the end. Like what's happened with Crosshair at this point. They wrote him off, and now we hardly ever see him. I want to see Echo again. He was probably my second favorite Bad Batch character. I thought he looked cool. He was an interesting character because he wasn't designed to be different. He was made different and then joined the team. So I think we'll see him again.
Okay, so here's what's going to happen. This is not a prediction, sure to go wrong. This is a prediction that I think is going to happen. With this. You remember back when we were in the build up to the Rise of Skywalker, and the big theory was that we were going to see Finn was going to lead a Stormtrooper rebellion of this. This whole series is moving towards a clone trooper rebellion against the Stormtroopers.
I mean,
and you're going to have Rex. Cody's already with him. Echo's going to be there. You're going to have those guys and Wolf and Gregor from Rebels. All of these guys leading a battle, a rebellion against the stormtroopers going forward. And the sad part about that is Wolf will survive, Gregor will survive, Rex will survive, but Cody and Echo will not.
Well, that's great and all, and it would be awesome. If it happened, why haven't we heard about it? In any of the...
Because the Empire doesn't want you to know that they're
same reason that in Truth and Consequences and in the Clone Conspiracy, the narrative is it was storms on Camino. They are hiding it. They are covering this stuff.
The Empire doesn't want to know that their old troops are fighting their new troops. That's like the worst PR nightmare ever.
Yeah.
If they had that much trouble in Andor when they stole like a little bit of money from a treasury, can you imagine what the uproar would be for that?
I think it'll be fun.
It will be fun.
It'll be interesting to see.
All right, it's time for a dad moment.
I am your father.
So when I saw Echo leave the Bad Batch, I couldn't help but think about a story in the New Testament of the Bible. The Apostle Paul had worked closely with another church leader named Barnabas. For years, they were traveling all throughout Asia and Europe, sharing the message of Jesus. But then they had a disagreement regarding how to handle a young man named Mark. And this resulted in a parting of the ways, which seems kind of similar because Hunter and Echo are having a disagreement of how to handle things with Omega. With it. The Bible even calls it in Acts 15 a sharp disagreement between them. It feels like this was also a good description of what happened between Echo and Hunter. I also love, though, how this disagreement didn't fraction the relationship Echo has with the Bad Batch. They just decided that things needed to go in a different direction and agreed it was time for that to happen. And so the moral of the story, I guess, is that disagreement doesn't have to result in division. In fact, we may see this ending up being better for both parties.
It's not better for me.
With it.
You'll learn to live with it, bud.
Yeah, you will. D. Bradley Baker, who plays everybody in the Bad Batch except for Omega, has said that the rest of the season will be a wild ride. His quote was, "The adventures, twists of plot, and turns of fate that are coming will be unexpected. Some will be welcome, and some will not. But it's a heck of a ride. I think fans are going to be very happy with where the second season goes. It's an exciting thing to be a part of and to experience with a fresh mind, not knowing what you're going to see or what's going to happen." And so I, for one, can't wait to see what happens.
All right. Good to know.
Let's do this. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Anything else?
Disney is reportedly making an MCU musical.
I can do this all day.
Anyway, a casting call for what sounds like Rogers the Musical.
Yeah. Let's go.
This is what it is. Recent casting call came out requesting 5 roles.
I want to go to the red carpet premiere for this.
Okay, that would actually be a lot of fun. Requesting 5 roles to be filled for an unnamed limited time show at the Hyperion Theater at Disneyland Resorts California Adventure Park. 4 of the said roles are described as thus.
Thus. You just want to say the word thus.
You put it in there.
I know.
A young man coming into his greatness who's around 17 to 20 years old. Kind of sounds like a young Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
A male character who's noble, loyal, idealistic, and romantic do-gooder, Captain America, Steve Rogers. A mid-20 to early 30s female role who's brave, resourceful, and intelligent, and must have a strong English accent, Peggy Carter. And a male character who's decisive, capable, principled, and has a wry sense of humor, and who leads others with attitude and swagger. That isn't a Howard Stark, I don't know what is. But my only confusion with that is it seems like the little bit we got in Hawkeye had
I think the end
that was
of
Avengers.
That was the end of the musical, though. It was Rogers the musical. It was his story.
Okay,
leading up to Avengers, probably.
I guess that would be the main characters for that.
Totally,
story.
I'm going to go see this.
Yeah,
I definitely want to see this.
See it. So. It would be really cool if we got to go do a premiere. That would be crazy.
All right,
but the Batgirl star Leslie Grace denies claims that scrapped film was unreleasable, saying it was incredible. Of course, you'd think that.
You're Batgirl,
and it didn't get released. But the co-president of DC Studios says that it was unreleasable, and I'm gonna take his side for it real quick.
Thanks.
I'm sorry.
It does. It sucks though. It sucks to be her. I mean, it really does. You work so hard. You pour your blood, sweat, and tears into something like that. And
yeah, absolutely.
I feel bad for her.
Absolutely,
absolutely.
But I'm glad I didn't waste time on it.
Yeah,
it was that bad.
Exactly. Chewbacca actor Peter Mayhew's nearly auctioned Star Wars items to be returned to his family.
I heard about
basically,
this.
after his death, they had to move out of the house. They left a bunch of stuff in the attic, didn't realize it, and they got found. And then somebody found it, bought the house, found it, and put it up on auction. And the auction company basically returned everything.
Good.
To Peter Mayhew's family with it. So, good job, guys.
Thank you.
We did it.
We did. A little longer than usual.
It was, but it's worth it.
We got to make up for the...
When you're only doing them once a month, that's the way it goes. But our next episode will come back and we're going to do it early March. First Tuesday in March. That's the goal.
It's good.
And
Cover
we'll
all the stuff that's in March, which is a lot.
It is, and we'll be doing some other episodes in the meantime, and check out some stuff that we're doing on YouTube. We'll be watching Ant-Man and Quantumania, and we'll do one of the car thing that we talked about doing, the YouTube car video. Yeah. We're doing it.
Finally doing it for like the first real time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've done it a few times now, and it's been a lot of fun. So check that out. We'll go forward. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yes,
thank you for listening to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast.
If you had a good time listening, it would be awesome if you could share this with friends and family and all that stuff.
And even people you don't like.
Yeah, just go up to some random dude on the street and scream.
Just grab his phone and subscribe it.
Yeah. And of course, the show is only a small part of the Tatooine Sons world, so be sure to like us on Facebook, join the Facebook discussion group, and follow us on Twitter to get in on all of the action. You can also keep up to date with everything we've got going on at TatooineSons.com.
That's right. Don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss our next episode coming out at the beginning of March. But we're going to do more before then, so just follow it. You never know when something's going to pop up in your feed. Please give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever podcast app you prefer.
Yeah.
I think that's it. All right. Anything else you guys would like to say?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you, always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.
Joy, please.